Hey guys, this is Awesome John 22 coming at you today with another review. I recently reviewed my first Deluxe class Bumblebee. I thought it was my first Bumblebee ever, but I realized after the fact that I had reviewed a Legends class Bumblebee as I think my second or third review of the entire series, as part of a three-part review with some other Legends class figures. So it wasn't quite my first, but it was my first Bumblebee that was meant for serious collectors. And I quite liked it, so I figured I would go ahead and do some more Bumblebees. And here we have the Generations Reveal the Shield version of Bumblebee that uses the same mold as the older Classics Bumblebee, which is almost impossible to get now. And short review, I really like it. Long review, let's take a look and see what this guy can do, and let's get started. Well, first by pointing out that he's wearing a backpack, and I don't quite like the backpack. But we will talk about that more in just a moment once we have him transformed up through the magic of jump cuts. And here we have Bumblebee in his vehicle mode, and you can see his little backpack thing becomes sort of a little jet ski looking contraption that hitches to his back. And I don't mind this as much as I think some people do, but I don't really particularly like it either, but it's pretty simple. I'll go ahead and get that transformed up for you. It'll go like this, and then this twists, and I believe this is correct, yeah, and then these fold around, and that's pretty much it. That's all there is to it. Not very complicated at all, but I mean, I guess it's cool. It's just, it doesn't resemble anything that any version of Bumblebee has ever used in the series. I don't know why they were so opposed to giving him weapons, but yeah, you can see really cool details on it, like a clear little water shield, I guess it would be, rather than a windshield. And I mean, it's cool molding underneath there and stuff, but I just don't really see the point. But moving on to Bumblebee himself. This is, as I mentioned, the Generations version of Bumblebee, not the Classics version, though it is the same mold. And it has some of the same problems, like, for example, this windshield piece doesn't quite want to stand. You can see a pretty severe gap there, as well as back here. But it's not too bad. The car still rolls pretty well. This was the Reveal the Shield part of the line, so it does have that, and you can kind of see it's a little warm in here, so that it was already a little bit revealed, but you just apply heat to it, and the rub sign reveals the hidden symbol. You even got little seats in there, which I always thought was really cool, though no other aspects of the interior. Great paint here, great clear blue windshield and headlights. You can see he's got this kind of darker yellow and double black stripe thing going on. Great silver rims too. It's very much, his paint scheme is very much inspired by movie Bumblebee, but that's to be expected. Cool. Silver in the grill too. That's to be expected though. This isn't about that period of time when the movie figures were a big deal. I love the spoiler here too. It's very cool. It is a very cool design, and it has very similar lines to a Volkswagen without actually being a Volkswagen, because Volkswagen was still being really whiny back then. But yeah, I really like it. It's got fantastic detailing all around, and that's why I have trouble going with the new Legends figure as a Classics version of Bumblebee, because I think this is just a really good iteration of Bumblebee, even if it is a little unconventional. Getting into the transformation, it's pretty simple, but it has some interesting bits to it. And I'm probably going to fumble a couple times with it, because I have not transformed this guy often. First, we're going to unpeg these, like I just did. Like so. Then we're going to take this and raise it up and away so that we can bring his legs down. We're going to kind of bend them like so, and bring these panels down so that they're flush. Split this, bring up these panels, and then bring the feet into position like so. And it's not very complicated. Next we're going to come up here, and without bringing that up because it gets in the way, we're going to rotate these around, rotate them down, and then we're going to rotate these it'll actually work. These door panels out and rotate them around. And this is the part that I usually fumble over. The arms are just barely complicated. And once everything is together, you can see a little peg in there. Just tabs right in and holds everything into place. Same thing over here. Pegs everything into place. Pretty simple, but it's just the kind. It's that kind of simple that I would mess up. You guys know me pretty well by now. Moving this up just a tad, we're going to bring the chest down now, which I believe it like slots right there. Then we're going to bring the head down, and he's pretty much done at this point. I mean, the only thing left to do is to take his jet ski thing, which I may have transformed backwards. I think it actually goes like this, yeah. Put it back there, and I mean, I guess it looks good, but again, it doesn't really resemble anything that Bumblebee has ever used in any of the series before. Maybe it kind of resembles his rockets from Transformers Animated, but not really. I mean, and I understand Classics was a line, because like I said, this is a repaint of the Classics mold. I mean, and Classics was a line that took classic characters and gave them upgraded, forms and designs and changed them around and made them something recognizable but still new, and I really appreciate that. I really genuinely do. And I actually get really upset with fans who whine about Classics figures that aren't enough like the G1 versions of the character. For that exact reason. The Classics are supposed to be updated. They're not just supposed to be a reissue of the same design with better articulation. But yeah, despite all of that, I still am not sure I like the jetpack thingy. But otherwise, I mean, Bumblebee is a really sleek, well-designed figure. And I absolutely love it. Showing off some detail in this mode. He has the barest minimum design put into his arms, with just the old style closed fists that we don't see quite as often anymore. His feet are the front of his car, just like on the G1 figure. You can see the seats become really cool silver detailing in the thighs. And his Autobot symbol kind of lit up already, but there you go, with it showing it off more. It ends up in his chest, and his windshield ends up in his stomach where it's supposed to be. And zooming in, he has just this great Bumblebee head sculpt. It's kind of, my Bumblebee's kind of dusty, I apologize for that. Great Bumblebee face sculpt and head sculpt. He's got a little smirk on him. Great detailing, great blue painted optics. And just because I can, I do want to bring in the new Legends Bumblebee. And I want to compare their head sculpts real quick, because what really sells the old Classics mold Bumblebee as a Classics Bumblebee for me is the fact that in the face he just looks so much more like Bumblebee. So to all of those out there who say that this version, the Legends version, should replace the old Classics Deluxe, I disagree on those grounds alone, and I think I win that argument. However, there is one very useful thing that Legends Bumblebee contributes, at least the version I have, and that's this weapon. As we can see, this Bumblebee doesn't come with a gun, but this gun does fit in his fist, and while it is the wrong color, I will freely admit that, I don't think it necessarily looks too bad there, and in fact, I've decided to display him with this weapon on my shelf from this point forward. But until then, let's put this weapon back to the side and take a look at the articulation, which is pretty good. The backpack hampers it a bit, so I will be removing that if I can get it to come off. There we go. I always forget, it kind of clips in right back there. I always forget about that. Full 360 at the shoulders, in and out at the shoulders, ball jointed elbow, a ball joint at the head, and this panel does move up and down very easily. I think it's supposed to tab, but I never bother with it. But full jointed head, and is there? No, there's no rotation in the wrists. In and out at the hips, back and forward at the hips, And it's very, very tight, but he does have a full 90-degree knee bend. And like several other Bumblebees that I've covered recently, this guy has really high knees, and it's kind of weird. And foot movement as well. So, pretty good. That's what Classics was originally known for, was classic style Transformers with updated articulation, and this guy definitely has that. So putting him all back together, that's pretty much Generations Bumblebee, which, as I mentioned before, is my preferred version of Classics Bumblebee. Since I'm finally doing a review of a solo figure again, I figured it was about time I started showing off size comparisons again. So here we have Bumblebee with a few more Bumblebees from other recent lines. We have our new concept Chimera Bumblebee from Age of Extinction with his really cool updated look, and as you can see, he's about a head and a half taller than Generations Bumblebee, which is a relatively small deluxe otherwise. We have my very dusty what was that, Hunt for the Decepticons Bumblebee back there, which I do plan on dusting off and getting a review of done relatively soon, because as I mentioned, I have decided to go ahead and tackle a few more Bumblebees while I have the motivation. And he is a Bumblebee, and a fantastic Bumblebee, I will go ahead and say that. And then we have our Legends Bumblebee up here in the front. And I really would like to get the other paint scheme of this guy and kind of compare them as well, and maybe I will. For the time being, he is our go-to version of this mold, and as you can see, he's the only one here that isn't that kind of orangey yellow, and really stands out, not just because of that, but because he's got a whole lot more round edges on him than any of these other guys do. I just now noticed that. But yeah, there you go. Gives you a pretty good idea of the scaling of this guy, and I personally think that this size is perfect for scaling with other Classics figures. So, you know, there's that. But guys, I absolutely recommend this figure if you're looking for a, even those out a little bit, because it's going to bother me if I don't. If you're looking for a version of the classic style character that is relatively easy to get your hands on now, because the original Classics is going to be a pain at this point in time. It was a pain when this guy came out. If you're looking for one that's still relatively easy to get your hands on, and in my opinion captures Bumblebee a little bit better anyway, this is definitely one to look for. It's relatively old at this point. Reveal the Shield was a few years ago now, but you should still be able to find it relatively easily for a decent price if you're willing to go a little bit, you know, further than you normally would for a figure. And I definitely recommend it, though don't just go online and buy it on a whim, because it is going to be expensive enough that you shouldn't do that. Either way, great figure, and I don't really have much more to say about it. I'm trying to think of something. I guess I could tell you that this is probably going to be my definitive version of Bumblebee from G1 and G1's inspired lines until, you know, something significantly better comes out. Maybe if they got Volkswagen to let them do another deluxe class rendition of Bumblebee, I would pick that up and replace this Bumblebee with that, but otherwise it's going to remain on my shelf forevermore, and I just don't see that changing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below if you feel so inclined. In the description down below, you'll find a link to all the stuff I'm working on right now. The gaming channel has been delayed a bit longer than I expected it to be, but it is up. You can go ahead and subscribe if you have enough faith in me, and if you don't, at least make plans to check back on it fairly regularly, because I do have stuff planned fairly soon. This has been Awesome John 22, and I will talk to you guys later.